Hi, I'm Chuck Gibson. This is Loveland Beacon Talks. Today we focus on the very important proposed constitutional amendment in Ohio appearing on your Tuesday, August 8th special election ballot as Ohio Issue 1. With me today on Loveland Beacon Talks, in an effort to bring clarity to the importance of Issue 1, is Orlando Sonza. He currently serves as a member of the Ohio Republican Party State Central Committee, spearheading the campaign for passage of Issue 1 in Hamilton County. On July 9th, Orlando officially announced he is a candidate for Ohio's 1st Congressional District, seeking to unseat incumbent Democrat Greg Landsman in the November 2024 election. It is the same seat formerly held by longtime Congressman Steve Chabot. Sonza is an experienced leader, having served in the U.S. Army after graduating from West Point. He is a husband, married 10 years to his wife Jess, also a West Point graduate and Army veteran. Together, they have 4 children. He is a leader focused on families first. It is my pleasure to welcome Orlando Sonza today. Well, thank you and welcome, Orlando Sonza. Thank you for joining us here on Loveland Beacon Talks to talk to us today specifically about Ohio's Issue 1 coming up on the ballot. We're less than a week away, Orlando. And also for the people listening, Orlando Sonza is a candidate for 1st Congressional District, running against, of course, the Democratic Congressman Greg Landsman in November. Just so for some background for some people to make sure they know. But again, welcome, Orlando. Thank you again for joining us today.
Chuck, thanks so much for having me. It's good to see you again, and I'm excited to talk about Issue 1, because you're right. We are less than a week away on this important vote, probably the most important vote that a lot of Ohioans are going to have the opportunity to weigh in on in their lifetime.
Well, and that is exactly the reason, because, if Loveland Beacon, I have not focused on political issues and things like that, but this one is important, and I wanted it to come straight from somebody who really knows what's happening. And so, again, for Hamilton County, you are basically spearheading the campaign for a yes for Issue 1. So, in your words, Orlando, what exactly is Issue 1, and what does it mean to Ohio and Ohio's Constitution?
Yeah, Chuck, a lot of people, a lot of voters specifically, they're confused on this issue. And that's because there is a lot of confusion that's being deliberately put out there, on Issue 1. What Issue 1 talks about is our Ohio state constitution. And not a lot of people even know that we in Ohio have a state constitution. We have a supreme law of our land here in Ohio, just like our country has a supreme law of the land, the U.S. Constitution. Well, there is a way that has been the case for a long time in Ohio for outside special interest groups, and we're talking outside of the state of Ohio, these big money groups and corporations, that there is a way to hijack the way that we pass laws in Ohio. What am I talking about? When people think about how we get laws passed, right, our founding fathers, both for Ohio and our country, devised this not perfect, but very well thought out process of, look, we get to, in a democracy, elect our representatives, and they go to the state or country's capital, and they debate on our behalf on issues, and we get a say. We get our voice heard through the representatives. And before a law is passed, we, the people, get an opportunity to show up in the Capitol, be there at a public hearing, and again, voice our concerns. And then our legislature, with the House and the Senate in Ohio, in Columbus, have an opportunity to craft legislation, agree on the wording for that law, and then they give it to the governor. So there's a process.
Right.
But really, there is a way to hijack that process, completely take away the voice of the people from being heard, and instead bypass it, go directly to the supreme law of the land, the Ohio State Constitution. And what's the product then of that hijacking that we've seen in Ohio for over 100 years? It is a way then to advance a special interest cause through a constitutional amendment in Ohio. Not that legislative process that I talked about, a constitutional amendment. How do you do that? Well, Ohio leads as one of the 17 states in the country that has the lowest threshold for amending the state constitution. It only requires 50% plus one vote, Chuck.
Right.
50% plus one.
And that's what's at the heart of this issue. That's what's at the heart of this argument, right?
That's exactly right. What you are voting on, what Ohioans have an opportunity to vote on squarely on August 8th, and even now, as early voting continues to happen, is what that threshold should be. That's basically the gist of the August 8th ballot initiative. Should it be the low 50% plus one threshold that allows for special interest outside groups to funnel money in Ohio, and as long as they get 50% plus one, boom, it is enshrined. Whatever the initiative is, whatever radical initiative it could be, it is enshrined in our Ohio Constitution. Our state legislatures have to abide by it. Our court has to abide by it. Or the alternative, that you have an opportunity as an Ohioan to assert your ability to protect our Ohio state constitution, is raise that threshold. A yes vote on issue one would be to simply say, we are not going to allow this hijacking process any longer in Ohio. We are going to raise the threshold from 50% plus one to 60%, requiring broader support from Ohioans if we want to amend our Ohio Constitution. Instead of a 50% plus one ridiculously low threshold, it should be 60%, requiring a broader support across the state. That is what a yes vote on August 8th is saying. It is truly protecting our Ohio Constitution.
Orlando, a quick question on the fact that, it is striking that we are one of 17 with such a low threshold currently. Has that always been the case with the state of Ohio Constitution? Has it always been a 50 plus one up until this point?
Since about the early 1900s, that is exactly what it's been, a 50% plus one threshold. And so what has been the byproduct of that? Look, since our Ohio State Constitution has been founded in the 1850s, we have seen 172 Ohio State constitutional amendments. 172. And if that's glaring to a lot of your listeners, Chuck, and even to both of us, it should be. Because what is the contrast that we have? If we look at our federal Constitution, the U.S. Constitution ratified in 1789, it's only been amended 27 times. Versus
172.
172. That's exactly right. And so the byproduct of this hijacking process is the document that was supposed to be a framework for advancing laws has instead become the substantive document where we have, and I kid you not, in our Ohio Constitution, by parcel number, the location of the casinos that we have in Ohio. You know, no matter what you think about casinos, no matter how frequently you visit, our local casino here in Cincinnati, that's not the point. The point is, how did casinos get its way into Ohio? It was not through the legislative process of your representative and you getting an opportunity to be heard as an Ohioan citizen. No, instead, it was through constitutional amendment passed by 53%. And that's how we have casinos in Ohio written by parcel number in our Ohio Constitution where specifically these casinos would be. I don't know if to Ohioans out there that sounds like, well, that's not how the Constitution should be. That's exactly right. It should be instead a framework, not the specific substantive document. That's what our Ohio Revised Code is for, not the Constitution.
Right. Another point, Orlando, that comes screaming to me in following this up to this point is that several of the organizations that you and I and everybody paying attention knows are supporting the opposition to issue one, they themselves have bylaws or constitutions for their organizations. And again, this goes to we're 17% with the low threshold, but they themselves, these organizations supporting the opposition to issue 1, have bylaws or constitutions that require 60% or even higher to make amendments to their bylaws or changes to their bylaws or constitution, however you wish to word that. And that's also striking. What does that say? And then again, I want to ask you real quick, and I know you've got to move on, so we need to wrap up. But what are the critical implications of a no vote on this issue 1?
Sure, Chuck. 2 important topics that you just brought up. The first one is therein lies the hypocrisy, right? The hypocrisy of the no proponents for issue 1 is that these large organizations have supreme laws for their organization, whether you call it a bylaw or whether you call it a organizational constitution. They require a greater than 60%, some 66%, to amend their bylaws or their constitution. So for them, it is good enough to have broad support to amend their supreme document, but yet for the Ohio Constitution, for our state constitution, they say that 50% plus 1 is the right vote. That's the hypocrisy. And the organizations that I'm calling out, and that I have been calling out, is Teachers Union, Planned Parenthood, Ohio Democratic Party, NAACP, ACLU, and the list goes on. These are the strong proponents for the no vote. But if you look at their founding document, it requires 60%. So that's the question that a lot of Ohioans have to ask is, what should be the threshold to amend a constitution? Look, we have benchmarks for that. Not just these organizations that are saying vote no on it when they're hypocritical, but look at our U.S. Constitution. Our founding fathers said that, look, to touch this document that's supposed to be the framework for a country, we don't require 50% plus 1. You need 2/3 majority, 66% from both the House and the Senate. And then we need to bring it to the states, and the states by 75% threshold have to all agree. So we've got a benchmark, whether it's our U.S. Constitution or these organizations that are saying to vote no. There is a benchmark for how you amend a constitution, and I will tell you, it is not 50% plus 1. It should be 60%.
Very good.
The second thing that I'll just touch on, and I'll close with this, Chuck, is, what are the ramifications? If you aren't fired up already on, look, we got to protect our Constitution. This has been an initiative that we've been wanting to do for a long time. This didn't just materialize, in the last 6 months of, we got to protect our Ohio Constitution. No, a lot of people forget that about 5 years ago, the state legislature in Columbus had a bipartisan bill in order to amend the Constitution threshold to 60% instead of 50% plus 1. It was bipartisan. Did the press cover it then like they're doing now? No. It was a no-brainer for legislators 5 years ago, but for now, when their radical initiatives are on the line. And here's what I want Ohio voters to understand. The ramification, the consequence of if this amendment initiative does not pass August 8th is that we will see in Ohio radical constitutional amendment initiatives that are on the pipeline right now, whether it's enshrining late-term abortion in our Constitution, which is going to be on the ballot this November, or a series of other radical constitutional amendment initiatives, recreational drug use being permitted in Ohio, infringing on our Second Amendment rights, raising minimum wage by constitutional amendment up to $15. And the list goes on. There are, again, radical special interest initiatives that are creeping their way into Ohio, and Ohio is the guinea pig for the rest of the country. If they can pass these radical initiatives in Ohio, they will attempt to pass it in other states. That is the ramification. That's the effect. We've got to protect the Ohio Constitution. A yes vote on August 8th is the way to do that. And look, it's okay to vote this way. What am I talking about? Early voting. Early voting you can go now to your Board of Elections and you can vote yes on August 8th, because look, it's no guarantee that you are going to be available on August 8th to vote. So what do we afford now in our election system? You can vote pretty much for an entire 30 days leading up to August 8th. Now, don't vote often, right? We vote early, but not often. But a yes vote, whether you do it now, I voted early, my wife voted 2 days ago, a lot of people are voting early, or you vote on August 8th because you view, you know what, I'm going to make it my commitment on election day, I'm going to do it. Whatever is convenient for you, but you've got to vote yes. This is going to be a turnout election, and the yes voters have to get out there.
Orlando, thank you so much. I think you summarized it very well in all of the points, and hopefully those listening who may have been confused and are on the fence just learned why a yes on Ohio's Issue 1 on August 8th is an important yes. And I thank you so much for joining us here on Loveland Beacon Talks today. You have a great afternoon, Orlando. Thanks again.
Thanks, Chuck. Always good to hear from you.
That was Orlando Sonza, current member of the Ohio Republican Party State Central Committee, spearheading the campaign for passage of Ohio Issue 1 in Hamilton County this coming Tuesday, August 8th. It is a most important ballot issue for the protection of the Ohio Constitution, with the eyes of the nation watching. Simply stated, passage means any proposed amendments to the Constitution of the state of Ohio will require approval of at least 60% of eligible voters. The current requirement for proposed amendment changes requires approval of only 50% plus one vote. This leaves our Ohio State Constitution vulnerable to initiatives for change from outside interest. A yes vote on Issue 1 will protect our Ohio Constitution from such vulnerability of a simple majority and will protect the rights of Ohio citizens. Please vote Tuesday, August 8th. This has been a presentation of Loveland Beacon Talks. I'm Chuck Gibson. Thanks for listening.